Good evening, everybody. By the time I'm recording this, it is late into the evening, which I always tend to record during the evenings. I don't know why. Probably the most time I feel at ease, but it has been a long while since I posted a video, and particularly has been due to my college. It has started in August of the 22nd, and since then I have been a bit busy, been focused on my studies and whatnot, so I have not had the leisure to do my videos as I normally would, but I have finished part of what I was working on prior, which we were discussing the Athenian Constitution. And after this, um, I'm considering a couple of things I can do. For starters, I could write about the lives of famous ancient Greeks or Romans. By the way, I'm also taking a college course right now in person about the Romans, and I'm looking forward. I'm actually, well, I'm already in it, so like looking forward to it wouldn't be not the right term, but yes, it's a pretty good class. This was the professor who taught me all about the ancient Greeks, so um, I am certain he will give me a quality education regarding the Romans as well. But as I was saying, most likely I might either do um, the Spartan Constitution as a future topic and the lives of these Hellenistic figures, or Chinese philosophy. It's between the three. But without further ado, let us get into this part of the Athenian Constitution, which is called the Reign of the 400. This Reign of the 400 occurred at a time during the Peloponnesian War, and this like if we want to get specific, this took place during the Sicily expedition, which went horribly. I believe this is covered in Thucydides, one of the last few um, coverages of Thucydides, because after that, Xenophon he writes his account about the situation. But Thucydides is mainly our main source for the Peloponnesian War. He manages to cover most of it. But yes, basically, disaster struck and Athens was in turmoil after their failure. They lost everything at Sicilia, so they lost their fleets and the best of their generals at the time. Alcibiades was still there, but he just wasn't present in the city, and he wasn't really an ally of Athens because they exiled him and treated him unjustly. This gave the Spartans the advantage, and with that advantage, it was mainly due because they had the alliance with Persia, and simply put, Persia provided them the abundance of resources needed to give the Spartans the edge. And the reason Persia was really more favored the Spartans more is really because of their form of government, which is quite different from the Athenians. And also, it was in their interest to get rid of Athens' influence in the sea so they could in turn take it. And that's basically what happened. Um, So, when the Athenians were conquered, they were forced to change their constitution into the regime of the 400, as I mentioned. The Athenian Putaros, he proposed this change of government in order to basically try to get the Persian king on their side. And they believed he would be more likely to join them if their government was oligarchic in nature, like the Spartans. A lot of people say the Spartan government is like the first successful communistic government, but in a way it isn't because they had kings and two kings, to be exact. So in a way, you could say they were a bit communistic 'cause their way of living was basically to share everything amongst each other. And but that is a whole other topic. I really would like to get onto that because I've been really realizing that they're not really, they're more like a hybrid between an oligarchy and a communist communist like government. But anyways, the decree that Puteros basically proposed here is that 20 men should be chosen by the Athenians. These men have to be over 40 years old and to join the emergency committee of 10 that already existed. These men were to take an oath to formulate measures in the interests of their state and make proposals for the safety of the state. In addition, everybody was allowed to pitch out their proposals and they would select one from those presented which they deemed suitable. So it did not end like this. So another Athenian named Cleitophon added to Puteros' degree that 20 men should be chosen using the traditional laws passed by Cleisthenes, the father of democracy, and the constitution of Cleisthenes was thought to be less democratic in nature and a lot more similar to that of Solon. So they naturally went more towards that. So with the retooling of the committee, they began to make the proposals, and the first proposal was that it was obligatory for the Prytanes to make their proposals related to the safety of the state up for vote. And by the way, the Prytanes were executives of the Boule Council. In addition, they suspended the statute of indictment for illegal proposals and all impeachments and summons. Any Athenian was now able to make proposals about what was being discussed. So they were really like getting the people more involved in a way here. And anybody who went against what they were really trying to propose here was immediately indicted and brought before the Strategoi. The Strategoi, once again, is the army general, and he would be handed to the 11 for execution. The 11 are basically the people who, as you would think, are in charge of like the shady things. So, in addition to all this, all money coming to the state was to be spent on war, and this was natural because they were in the middle of such a big war that has been going on for over 20 years at this point. So nobody would receive pay for office for the duration of the war except the 9 archons and prytanes. They received 3 obols a day. So basically, the administration was in the hands of Athenians that were the most qualified in person and property to serve the state. So pretty much they had the upper class pretty much lead, and this was basically the oligarchic aspect or aristocratic if you want to argue that way too. And in total, this amounted to 5,000 Athenians. So this is the part of the 5,000 of the 400 regime. So the 5,000 had the power to make treaties with whoever. The people were allowed to elect 10 men from each tribe over 40 years old, and these elected 10 men would select the 5,000. And my opinion here is while they were resorting to an oligarchic society, they still had aspects of their democratic principles. Like, it's really difficult to ignore. But anyways, onto the 5,000. The 5,000 basically, with the proposals passed, the 5,000 picked 100 of their own members to create the new constitution. This is a third body here, apparently. So a couple of their proposals were that the bully was to consist of men over 30 years old and they would receive no pay. The people selected for this would hold the position of strategoi, the 9 archons, the Hieronymomenon, commanders of the tribal hoplite and cavalry units, cavalry commanders, and the commanders of garrison, and the 10 treasurers of the treasury of Athena and other gods, and on top of that, the 20 Hellenotomii. The Hellenotomini would also change and would be in charge of the sacred fund. All other offices were to be filled by men not from the Boule. The Hellenotomii would not be given a seat at the Boule. Four, four bullies, the 4 Boule were to be established. They were to be from the selected age group, and they would be one of these 4 to become the Boule. The others were to be dispersed through the sections of the Boule. So pretty much they had um, basically 4 bullies already prepared in advance, and they would select and pretty much use the other, like pretty much just like having your faculty of staff already ready. And let's say you have four variations, like okay, I can put this together and that together. So at the end, you decide what version to use. So then you decide to use the people from version 1, version 3, and version 4, and you just incorporate them into this new one you decided on. So those on the drafting committee were also to divide themselves equally into the fourth section. They casted lots between sections. The term of office for Boule was 1 year. The members of the Boule made decisions they thought best for Athens' finances and their usage of said finances. If they wanted the discussion to be wider, they would invite one associate of their age group. The Boule met every 5 days unless there was a need for more meetings. The Knight Archons handled the drawing of lots for the Boule. 5 men were selected from the Boule to count these votes. One of these 5 men was selected as well to put things to. So, you see what I'm saying here? Like, they have not lost their democratic principles despite wanting to be more oligarchic in nature. Um, the selected 5 men were also responsible for casting lots of people who wished to address the Boule in a certain order. An example of this would be the priest, heralds, embassies, and last would be insignificant other things that we will not discuss. The Strategoi had the right to address the Boule in matters of war without the drawing of lot system. That's pretty logical. The Boule members who failed to attend the meetings at the appointed time were fined a drachma per day of absence unless they had permission to be absent. From what I have stated, this is pretty much what the Constitution of the 400 is. They did add a couple proposals, like the Boule was to have 400 members according to tradition, which is pretty much common. 40 from each tribe previously elected by their tribe that were over 30 years old. Basically, the way the Boule has always been in classical Athens. The Boule appointed their office holders and drafted the oaths they were going to take. And pretty much you should understand that oaths in the ancient world were very important. Like it was not just you promising, like it was pretty much very sacred in a way. And also, like, I just wanted to say that I know that the power is still in the more powerful of the Athenian citizens. Like, it's not really democratic in nature, but amongst themselves, the oligarchs here are being a bit democratic with having their selections and all of that. It's just not like, oh, you're appointed. No, like we're voting for you to take up this position or you to take up this position. So, anyways, the laws were to be observed as they were passed, and no further legislation was passed to change the laws or put others in their place. The strategoid came from the body of the 5,000. They were given a clerk, had full powers, and a term limit of 1 year. These people were able to advise the Bulla if it was needed, like I said prior. In addition, Strategoid selected one cavalry commander, 10 commanders of the tribal cavalry units. This would be a temporary power they had because the Bulle would later choose them themselves. There was a limit added onto some of these offices where only one term would be allowed, except for those offices of the Strategoid and Bulle, because logically, you will want to have the best men running the battlefield and the best people to run the Bulle, which is want to run the country itself, or the city-state in this instance. The 100 men handpicked by the 5,000 also allotted the 400 into sections so that they could take part in it when the citizens were to join in membership of the Bulle eventually. These were the proposals of the 100 men handpicked by the 5,000, so it's best to remember that. Essentially, this was the beginning of the Athenian oligarchy. The establishment of this constitution led the 410 strategoids with full powers ended up ruling the city. They tried to make peace with Sparta, but the Spartans wouldn't accept unless Athens put an end to her naval power. It was a good attempt, but they failed. And Athens, of course, was not willing to get rid of the one thing they were naturally the superior at than everybody in the Hellenic world at that point. The 400 Constitution did not last. It lasted about 4 months, and well, it's not surprising in the least because it's too many changes. Like I said when I was discussing Cleisthenes, that Cleisthenes understood not to make too much change. And this constitution is way too much change for what Athens was at that point. They were what you could describe as a radical democracy, and they were not gonna really take liking to this new form of government, which they never liked in the beginning. So naturally, it would fade away and not last very long. But anyways, like I said, the 5,000, they provided their own armor, and it basically to them led to them passing a decree that no pay for office would be given. And as I was saying, the reason this constitution did not last was because of the revolt of Euboea, which led to the 400 being overthrown, and this just gave the 5,000 the control. So pretty much the 400 were just eliminated, and at the end, one of the bodies of their constitution ended up being the ones in charge. And like I said, the 5,000 naturally were a lot more suitable because they provided their armor, and that is noted because they were in a war period. They were trying to cut their expenses as much as they could. So final thoughts here. It was a good attempt at what they were trying to do. Me personally, I'm not a fan of an oligarchy. Being a citizen of a republic, of course, I will not take a liking to that. But in very desperate times, I understand. They were in a time of war and they needed to be flexible. Of course, those who could pay for their armor and weapons would be the ones in control because they're the ones fighting out there. They're the ones contributing the most to defend their state. You have to understand that these ancient civilizations gave power to those who were naturally able to fight for the right. That's why citizenship was given to those who could naturally fight for the country and had their own. Now, I don't agree with that. You have to provide your own armor. Like naturally, someone would want to fight for their country, but they might not have the money to provide themselves the material. So that should be in the hands of the state or the country. But anyways, one thing to note is that the ancients always tended to freak out when things went bad. Like always, like there was never a chance where they did not freak out, cause and they always like whoever they deem responsible, they just threw them out or just killed them. It's very ignorant, in my opinion, but they were a product of their time, and that is completely understandable. They may have been transforming into an oligarchy regime, but you have to admit, like after everything I have stated in this lecture here, that you have to admit there is a democratic aspect to the attempt at an oligarchic regime. I just simply, I mean, I can explain it, but I just feel like I cannot explain it. It's weird. But anyways, once again, thank you for being patient, and I hope to really finish covering ancient Athens' constitution. Um, Aristotle's my primary source, so if you wish to fact check me, you can. And specifically, if you want to fact check me, I'm getting all my information from this book called Aristotle and Xenophon on Democracy and Oligarchy. The translations and introduction and commentary are by J.M. Moray, and pretty much that is my source here. It's a really good book. I recommend you to read it. I just like the way it's structured. It's pretty simple. It has a lot of commentary in it, and truth be told, this is really something I believe every person should read. It's best to understand how Athens' form of government was very important for us as a in the modern age. But anyways, that's enough rambling. I I like to ramble, but not enough. Usually, most of my videos are prepared. I'm very organized, so I like that, and I like it that way. But I do tend to add my own insert in. I even label it as an insert because I don't want it to interrupt the content that I'm trying to deliver. But anyways, thank you for watching. Like the video, share the video, and if you enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on your post notifications. Like you have nothing to lose. Completely free. I will probably never ask anything of you people watching my videos. This is all free to view as long as YouTube, the site itself remains, which is pretty likely that it will. It's a really successful form of media, if you like to say. It's a marvelous platform. A bit limited nowadays, but it's you could say it's best that way because the things being posted prior to those limits were a bit ridiculous. But anyways, thank you and see you in the next video.